I wanted to do a video on my handrail project to maybe give you a few pointers, let you know kind of what I went through on getting a new handrail installed. Did it all myself. What we had here before, from back when our house was built in 1980, was 2x2 pine coming floor to ceiling for about 4 or 5 of those, and then 2x2 pine continuing on down here about every 9 inches. So that was a big enough gap for children to fall through. So when we moved in, we put some 2-foot high lattice along here, which kept the kids from falling through, but it looked kind of dumb. Plus it was a dark walnut color, which I got kind of tired of. And the stair boards here were rough sawn cedar, also painted or stained in a dark walnut color. What got this change going was us putting down a new flooring. We went with 8mm Tarkett laminate flooring, the kind where each section locks in, each plank does. So the 2x2s were going to have to come out anyway, or we were going to have to notch around every single one. So I took that as an opportunity to get rid of those and ended up with some handrail and spindles, and I'll get into some details on how that all came together. First, let's go to the garage and look at some of the tools and some of the little intricacies of how it all came together. Okay, we're out in the garage. Got a bunch of miscellaneous things here to talk about. First of all, this is a piece of the old 2x that was our handrail. It was built out from the wall with some like 2x4s. It's kind of a dark walnut color. Got a bunch of sawdust on it right now. So I wanted that out of here. Okay, first come on over and have a look at the paper. This is the scratch notes I've been using the whole time. First of all, I was thinking about using some 4x4 salvage cedar, and I was kind of envisioning using something like 2x2s or spindles. So that was just kind of a conceptual drawing. And I did a bunch of pricing. Everything came from Lowe's. Deciding on what kind of handrail to go with, the shaped or just kind of a plain, and using the spindles versus just like a 2x2 pine. I was even thinking about using pre-cut 2x2s normally used on decks. We ended up going with the newel posts at each end. We'll see those on inside. It was extra cost, of course, but they look really nice, so that was worth it. And here's some sketches of like upstairs on the landing. We've got a horizontal piece and then the handrail coming down. I was trying to figure out how many pieces I was going to need. Figuring out handrail spacing for the brackets to go to the basement, because that had some wall to anchor to there. I had to figure out how to do the cuts to mount at each end. So this has been my kind of go-to scratch note the whole time. Alright, let's look at some of the tools and things that have been used for this project. I ended up using 4 of these LJ Stair Systems anchoring posts. The post itself is in the house, we'll see that in a second. Came with this long bolt. It's like a smooth shank with threads at the top for a nut and lag threads that go into the joists of the house to anchor the newel post down. And it came with hemlock, poplar, and oak plugs for the holes, 1.5-inch holes to anchor this sucker. These dowel pins, they ended up using like 1.5 boxes of these to anchor the horizontal 2x2s along the main floor. We'll see those in a second. Here's one of the hemlock plugs stained for the last post I've got to install yet. The LJ Stair System, they also offered at Lowe's a kit that came with this lag bolt washer, 3 of these plugs, I think again in oak, poplar, and hemlock. $4.47. So forget that. I went up to the hardware section, got like a lag bolt for 20 cents, washer for 10 cents, a pack of 5 plugs for like $2 or whatever. So it saved a bunch of money from going with the LJ pre-packaged kit. We used Minwax Clear Satin Polyacrylic as a top coat. Soap and water cleanup, which is great, still kind of stinky. Paint can opener. The secret on these is the little hook on the end. Very handy. Minwax wood stain. I I ended up going with 2x2 pine for my spindles. We'll see those in a minute. But hemlock for the newel posts and handrails. So it's kind of funny. We've got golden oak, which we used on the hemlock, and early American on the pine, and they ended up looking the same. So that worked out pretty well. This was a scrap piece of the hemlock where my wife put on the early American and the golden oak so we could compare and see which color was going to work out the best. Let's see. Socket wrench, use that for the lag bolts. Tape measure, back and forth with the tape measure a lot. Level, use the level to get the newel posts vertical. You have to sand them on the bottom if your floor isn't level. Level plus framing square. This was kind of crazy. I was trying to figure out my stair angle. So, well, I'll demonstrate that one in the house in here in a minute. Quick grip clamps. Love these things. It's awesome. Use this a lot. Handsaw, not so much. That was just laying here from something else. These little blocks, I've got like 20 of these. It's just a chunk of 2x4 with a screw in each end. This ended up being really handy for the 2x2s. Of course, they were 8 feet long. For the staining and finishing, we could do a side, flip it, do a side, flip it, and keep it up off the surface, just span it across a couple of tables. Carpenter square, use that quite a bit to mark for straight cuts. Utility knife, had to notch out the laminate flooring to get down to the subfloor for the newel post. Pencil, back and forth with the pencil all the time. Let's see, oh, utility knife, kind of handy. I like this one up at about position 3. This thing undoes, blade comes out, you can flip it to the sharp side, slide it back in, and away you go. Pretty cool. My calipers, little plastic calipers, got for like, I don't know, 30 bucks a long time ago or something. I ended up measuring, the handrail, ended up being like 2.22 inches wide, which factored into my ends of the handrail cuts, because I had to know once I built up the pieces, cutting the 45, and if the total length was 2.22, at the middle it would be 1.11. That helped me get the handrail size just right. Here's a piece of the 2x2. The spindles, I could have gone with the pre-cut spindles, real nice, but they're like $3.47 each. Versus 2x2 pine, I can get an 8-foot piece for $1.50. So that saved us a ton of money, and it looks really nice. Okay, an additional note about using 2x2s versus the shaped spindles. They were a lot easier to sand when we put on each coat of the clear finish. We didn't have to worry about the nooks and crannies on every single spindle. Alright, moving on the main floor. For the horizontal run, I didn't want my 2x2s to go all the way to the floor every single time, so I bought this bottom rail, and I had to shape it down at each end to fit the notches. And that fits in the bottom rail like so. A neighbor loaned me a table saw, so I had to figure out taking off like an 1/8 inch this way and 3/16 that way, so that would fit in really nice. And the bottom rail came with this little strip of wood to go between each post. Kind of a lame thing on the LJ Stair Systems website, and even on the packaging for the bottom rail, it shows like this little insert piece will have a nice shape to it, but they must have cheapened out and gone to just this plain, just kind of looks like unprinted yardstick. So shame on you, LJ Stair Systems. Got these little chunks of chipboard I used to put with some nails, put it like at each end of the bottom rail and handrail, again to do that staying and finishing trick, so I didn't have to worry about drips or laying it on something. Right here we've got some scraps from the newel posts. Looks kind of like World Trade 1, 2, and 7, which curiously enough fell at free fall speed into the path of most resistance. How about that? I'd say controlled demolition. Anyway, moving on. For attaching the handrail going to the basement, I was thinking of using this little keyhole anchor. I would attach this to the wall, attach the screw to the end of the handrail, and it would anchor in. But I ended up off of my length and missed the stud, and it didn't work, so I just ended up running a really long screw in at an angle. So, I don't know, so much for the keyhole anchor. Let's see, I've got some drill bits. Come on a little closer. This is a bottom piece of one of the, this is a cut off piece of one of the newel posts, and I ended up having to drill through this 4x4 section right along the glue seam. And the first time I did it, I just went straight for it with my 3/8 bit, and the glue seam seemed to kind of walk the bit off at an angle, or maybe it was just me not holding the drill all that well. So it ended up working out best later to go with the 3/16 all the way through down the glue seam. Come back later with the 3/8. I also had to pocket out with a 1-inch spade bit. The electrical tape is there for the depth. The 1-inch pocket, that goes with the handrail attachment with the lag bolt. Yeah, okay, that'd be pocketed out like so, and then it gets plugged on the other side. We'll see that on the inside of the house also. And for anchoring the post down to the floor, I had to go with an 1.5-inch bit right along the glue seam, like, yeah, as deep as the electrical tape right there. So holy cow, that was a lot of wood getting dug out of there. Got the chisel involved a little bit, stud finder. I always talk about this piece here. Cutting some of these short pieces for the handrail, I ended up with little short pieces that I wanted to like trim off, and of course it's dangerous as heck to hold a short piece in against the saw, and plus there's no support in here to keep it straight. So I glued my little handrail piece to the end of this 2x4 so I could clamp a 2x4 in the saw, cut it off nice and straight. Funny story about the saw. Doing laminate floor project concurrently with this stuff is like half paper and half glue, so it tears up saw blades big time. So I ended up replacing the saw blade partway through, but I got a thinner blade than what I started with, so I had to change out my little saw guide. I just made a little one out of plexiglass right there. Anyway, so yeah, doing laminate flooring, that's going to tear up your blades at the same time. So I ended up with some darker cuts from fighting my way through, but I'm about done. It's all looking pretty good.